welcome to another edition of What's So Funny, the show that probes the brains, the minds, the psyches, and the brains of the people who make the funny. Tonight, a special treat. 2 comics for the price of 1. First, you know her from her disgusting appearances on Celebrity Roasts, the Queen of Mean, Lisa Lampanelli. Why can't she just be nice? Nice is our second guest. You know lanky, curly-haired stoner Chris Porter from your favorite comedy competition TV show, Last Comic Standing. Turns out, nice guys don't finish last, they finish third. And now, on with the show.
Hey, Guy, how's it going?
How are you?
Is this G or Guy?
Well, Lisa, you...
I remember you. I said it's better be fucking just Guy, not that faggoty French name Guy.
Yeah, you asked me last time, and I thought we had a connection that you would remember me specifically.
You know what? I kind of said, as I was dialing, I said to Jimmy, I said, this sounds familiar. His name's Guy, so I think I talked to him before. How's that for a memory?
Nice cover.
Yeah, right?
You're good. I know you do a lot of these, but I appreciate you calling.
Sure.
You're becoming a bit of a regular in Vancouver, aren't you? Or Richmond.
They love me up there.
Yeah, they love you everywhere.
Oh, yes.
And you mentioned Jimmy in the last 2 years. We spoke 2 years ago, and so he's a new addition.
Yes, I would say so. Although I probably met him right after, I literally think it was like maybe 2 weeks after I was up there last time. Because we met in April of 2009, and we got married 4 months ago, yesterday.
Wow.
So, isn't that fab?
That is fab. Do you miss the black guys?
Oh, no, because really, there was a lot of missing things from my apartment, so now I have a lot more stuff now because I could put it out and not hide it.
Oh, you. How did you meet Jimmy?
Well, Jim Brewer, the comedian who used to be on SNL, has a radio show on Sirius. And in 2006, I went in to promote my Grammy-nominated, did I mention I got nominated for Grammy? My Grammy-nominated CD, Dirty Girl. And Jimmy Big Balls, my future husband, was in the room. And I met him, but 3 years later, he got in touch with me. You know, I guess I didn't really wow him too much at the beginning, but then he saw me on TV and saw a dollar sign. So there you go. We've been together ever since.
What was he doing in the room?
Well, Jim Brewer had Jimmy on a lot because he's a very funny, has a good personality, and he owned a rock club, and he would bring in bands for Brewer to interview because Brewer's like a big fan of rock and roll. So he liked my future husband so much that he said, I come in anytime, hang out, talk on the radio because you're funny. So he was kind of like one of those guys. Wow. I think the day I came in, it was Valentine's Day, and he was dressed as Cupid, but I've tried to block out that image from my mind.
Good call. And you mentioned your Grammy-nominated album. That sounds a lot better than saying Grammy-losing album.
Exactly, because it pissed me off that I lost. I lost those goddamn Flight of the Conchords, which I don't approve of that.
Why not?
Where are they now? No place, you New Zealand fag.
They're a musical act, too.
Exactly, yeah. They should mix that in with good comedy, whatever.
You've been a stand-up now 21 years or something like that, right?
Yeah, right?
When exactly did you become the Queen of Mean? Was that a marketing thing? Did you come up with that? Did somebody else?
Well, about 7 years in, I kind of had evolved into where I really like doing the crowd work with the audience, the insults, and I did my first roast and stuff, and I just planted the name in the New York Times, and I call myself comedy's lovable Queen of Mean, to distinguish from Leona Helmsley, who was just the Queen of Mean. And I planted it in the New York Times during an interview, so I could actually say the Times called me that. So I kind of just manipulated the media a little bit, and there it was. And ever since then, I kind of just like really having that as sort of the cornerstone of my act, and the roast being sort of that whole embodiment of what I do.
Yeah, the media is easily manipulated. You were part of the media, so you know.
Yes, exactly. I know. That's what everybody goes, did writing help you with your comedy? Did journalism help? And I'm like, only that you know how to write your own publicity and press releases, that's all.
Yeah.
So, I haven't done that. At least I know how to kind of get stuff in the paper.
I was discussing with a friend just yesterday about offensive comedy, and people take offense to a lot of things, and I was saying that you should always factor in intent of the performer or the actor or whoever it is. But how does an audience know the intent of the performer?
Well, if you walk into a room and somebody says, "Hey, faggot," like a friend, so the intention behind that is, "Hey, that's my buddy." You say it all the time. Black people go, "Hey, nigga, what's up?" If you're friends with somebody, you kind of can say whatever you want. So I think audiences sense that if you really have a good intention behind it and there's no real hate there, they can tell. I just don't think audiences are stupid. I don't think they can't read who you really are as a person. So that's why so many people adore Howard Stern, or I, love Don Rickles, because you can sort of just tell how we talk and just our general mannerism, our manner of speaking and our way of being, that we couldn't say this stuff if we meant it. It just wouldn't come out of our mouth.
Yeah.
I just think audiences get it, thank God.
And is it a numbers game? Like, because some people might take offense, but the vast majority don't? Or, like, at what line do you say, "Oops, that was..."
Well, I never say oops because I'm just friggin' perfect, and everything I say is hilarious.
Yeah.
So I don't worry that much. But it's like, in my new special, I say that Sam Kinison said it's better to have 10% love you than 90% like you, because you really just need a small fan base who's very loyal. You don't need the entire world to approve. So you need some major players in the media, like Howard Stern and people like that,
and me,
the Night Show or whatever, to put you out there. And you need a small segment of the population to keep you employed, And I'd rather sort of be loved by 10% than kind of sell out and be boring and normal and have 90% go, she's okay. You want love or hate? I think that's what I want, love or hate.
Right, yeah. With the right intent, you can say practically anything, or do you think you could say anything?
I think anything, because, I remember I was living in New York right after September 11th, and there were some really good comics like Nick DiPaolo, Colin Quinn, who could legitimately do good September 11th insightful jokes, right after it happened. So these guys were such good technicians and really had a point and could say stuff even about the most horrendous thing that's ever happened, other than the Holocaust. And you have to throw that in because the Jews might be reading that. I think you can really say anything if it's funny and if there's the right intent behind it, as you say.
Yeah, and that's the crux. Maybe a lot of younger comics don't get, is that you need to have those chops to be able to do it. So craftsmanship.
Yeah. Like I always say, a lawyer doesn't take on a murder case his first day out of law school. You gotta, you have to kind of be good before you do something really challenging, and that's definitely challenging.
I saw you here, I guess in 2008, and one guy in the audience obviously was taking you seriously. So when you started in on the gays, he shouted out his approval, and you shut him down pretty swiftly.
What do you mean approval?
Well, like, he was sort of a homophobic guy, so he was, you know what I mean? You shut him down. Like, you sort of came out of character a little bit, enough to let him know that, hey, we're all here together. And then you went back and lambasted them. Yeah,
because you can always you can sense that the guy is doing it for the wrong reason, and with a bad, homophobic edge to his voice or whatever. Hey, ask any gay guy, he'd rather I say, "Hey, faggot," than have somebody say, "Hello, gay." It's like, just because it's the word doesn't mean you hate the person. So the douchebag you referred to was probably talking shit. And I was like, hell no. That's not allowed here. You can get the fuck out.
Yeah, that's right. It's a fine line. Because you might attract people who don't quite get it.
Right, and that's why you make your donations to your different causes and charities, so that you make it up for it in God's eyes, so I still go to heaven with straight people.
We mentioned you were a writer. What was the best piece you ever wrote?
I used to interview bands and performers and stuff, so I did three very good profiles on Rush. I'm not just trying to suck up to the Canadians, but I wrote three very good stories on Rush. I wrote a very good story on Jethro Tull. You can tell, like, I used to do this 20 years ago, because that these people, well, actually, they all still exist, but, they were big back then. And I wrote a really good story, believe it or not, on Fred Gwynn, who used to be Herman Munster.
Oh, yeah.
He's actually a Harvard-educated, Juilliard-trained actor. And I interviewed him for 3 hours one day and wrote a good thing on him. So, yeah, I used to love doing that stuff.
Would you ever put out a collection of your earlier work?
You know what? Wait a minute. That really is not the worst idea ever, because I never even thought about that. I thought about taking all the tapes, because I still have all the interviews on tape, and kind of just playing it for Stern, because he really wants to hear them. But that's not a bad idea, putting out a book of my little stories. I'm going to write that down. I will consider that.
And I'll look for my name in the thank yous.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was your interviewing or research technique before you would approach a subject?
Well, isn't it funny, because it was before the internet, I guess.
Yeah, that's hard.
Right. So I think what we would do was the record company would send clips of things that were already written on them, to do a little research. You also have the press release, then you got the record to listen to. Then I'd go to the library or whatever. And remember microfiche and microfilm and all that crap?
Oh, yeah.
Stuff in like Circus Magazine and things. I just liked these bands so much that I was curious about them and how they lived. And it wasn't always about the music. It was just kind of how they lived their lives and stuff. And that's what I found interesting.
And were they all good to you, or were some of them jerks?
Nobody was ever a jerk. Like, there were some boring ones. I mean, you're talking about interviewing a ton of heavy metal bands, and they're not that, every single one of them isn't going to be bright, but more interesting. And also, you catch some at the end of the day. I remember there was this band, remember the band Asia?
Yeah.
There was the lead singer was a real big prog rock guy, and I interviewed him probably at 8 o'clock at night, sitting in that stupid Capitol Records building, and it's like, now that I do that and have to sit through interview after interview, I understand why he probably looked tired, was totally lackluster. It's like you've talked about yourself for a whole day, and I have more sympathy for that now. I actually was really cool with him, but I was like, wow, what's wrong with this asshole? And now I get it.
It must be tiring for you. I mean, you hear the same questions over and over, and having to do this a lot.
I don't hate press as much as a lot of people, because I have my limits too. I try to limit it all to one day a week now. I got that advice from a really great comic named Brian Regan, who was like, you can't have a life if you're doing this every day. I limit it to one day. And also, the radio stations, I have sympathy for them because of their constrictions about language and stuff. So those are, I have to be a little more wide awake for those and, watch what I say. But I don't hate it terribly, but I don't love it. It's definitely number 4 on my top 10 list of things to do.
Mm-hmm. Now, you came out with a book, too. Was it last year?
Yeah, it was, I think the end of the year, the end of 2009, I think.
So being a writer yourself, you probably didn't use a ghostwriter like a lot of these comics do.
I was really proud of that. And it's really good. I'm proud of how it came out.
Are you a big reader as well?
Just like what I want to read. Like I buy self-help books all the time and get through 10 pages and think I learned everything in the book and discard them.
Right.
So I read 10 pages of self-help books at the most. And then I read chick lit all the time. All I read is, if it has a pink and green cover, I read it. So I read anything that kind of resembles The Devil Wears Prada. So it's all about women who kind of are looking for the right guy, and, they have their little career challenges and all that. And I love reading that because I know now, like, oh, I've lived through that, and look at me, I'm a huge...
You are a huge star. So what kind of self-help do you need?
Oh, my God. I'm always struggling with codependence. I'm always struggling with food addiction and dieting and all that shit and just all crazy stuff and just not being insane. Because, all comics are pretty insane, so I'm trying to keep it to a minimum.
So the Lisa Lampanelli lounging at home. You live in Connecticut, right?
No, New York.
Oh, you live in New York? So, but what interest do you have that would surprise us, like the Lisa away from the stage and the spotlight?
Probably not too much because I'm a huge reality TV fan because it's like my guilty pleasure. I love every single one of the housewives on Bravo. I watch really, really bad TV like The Bachelor.
Oh, I watch that.
Guilty pleasure crap.
Yeah.
I'm totally addicted to Sex and the City. I've watched each movie like 20 times. I fancy myself that I'm a combination of Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall. I think I'm just like both of them rolled into one. So, yeah, I'm like a really faggy girl sometimes.
Are you still up on the music scene?
No, not in the least. I'm so uncool. My whole playlist that I listen to at the gym is show tunes. I'm a gay man.
You love Glee then, too.
Oh, my God, exactly. Hello.
Hey, I read you where in an interview you said you're back when you were a reporter, a copy editor, you thought your life was meaningless. Is it meaningful now?
Yeah, because, I have this life coach. I guess people would be surprised by that. I have a life coach who's like, doing comedy isn't about you. She's like, it's about other people. It's about bringing them some happiness. And, like, yeah, you're lucky because you make money from it and you're really comfortable financially and you got a nice career going. So it's really about them because people come to comedy shows as an escape and to be entertained and to get their mind off their day. Because I guess that's the meaningful part is just going when people come up to me after shows and, the occasional one just say like, oh my God, I haven't laughed in 5 years and this was great and wow, I needed that this week. This was a shitty week and wow, that really made my day. So that feels like there's some meaning in it too. And also, I'm married now, I got a dog, so those things definitely add more meaning to your life instead of going, wow, will I ever find a sense of home?
Mm-hmm. Has the marriage softened you?
Well, I mean, as a person, maybe, but as a comic, it's probably made me worse because, by worse, I mean more edgy because, I feel kind of like invincible now because I got a big guy who travels with me everywhere. So I feel like kind of even more fearless than I was. I'm like, fuck it. What's the worst that's going to happen to me? I'm protected.
I think you got out of the media game in good time because I don't like the direction it's going now with like Chelsea Handler. She's doing her act and then it becomes news that she dissed somebody. You write a tweet about Zsa Zsa Gabor and that becomes news like it's...
I know. The thing is with Twitter and stuff and Facebook, I can't imagine posting anything that has to do with my life because it's so goddamn uninteresting.
Right.
I think once I tweeted that I met the Kardashians and they were really nice to me or something, But for the most part, I just tweet jokes because I want to get people, coming to my shows. Certainly my life has no news in it, believe me. Nobody find me interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, what about this where I don't know if they're reporters or who, but people are taking seriously what comics are saying on stage as if it is anything other than a joke. Right,
that's a good point, because I've said many times from the stage, I'm a comic, not a senator. It's just jokes. I mean, when it comes down to it, isn't there something else more important people could get pissed about? There's a lot of things going on in the world that seem a little more important than what I say. I just like it because any attention we get, it gives us more fans, and that's more tickets and more money for LL.
When I spoke to you in 2008, you said you weren't doing more roasts, and since then you've done one or two, I don't know. Are you back with them? And will they continue without Greg Giraldo?
Oh, they'll definitely continue. I mean, please, they continued without Rickles when Rickles said he'll never do a roast again. The greatest roaster of all time. So, easily. And it's, there'll be definitely a lack of that really smart kind of he was really astute and a good joke writer and a really, really good asset to the roast. But nothing ever shuts down because of one guy, unless he's the head guy. In other words, the Howard Stern show would survive without Robin. It would survive without Fred. It survived without Artie and Jackie. But if Howard leaves, that's it, And the show wouldn't be as great without Robin, but basically, hey, it's the Howard Stern show.
Right.
With the roast, it's like, Well, you need a really good bunch of comics. You need a bunch of celebrities who will sit there and take it, and it'll all go on.
Any more in the works?
Yeah, we're doing Donald Trump in March, so that should be cool.
Too easy.
It's probably too hard because there's so much that's easy jokes. You want to do the jokes that aren't so obvious.
Right.
So it might be a little harder than people think, which is it's good.
What happened with your sitcom deal?
Didn't get picked up.
Didn't?
Yeah, you know what? Me and my freaking Jim Carrey. See, you get involved with a Canadian, this is what happens.
But now you're going to do some dramatic acting, I understand?
Jesus. Yeah. I did get a part in a movie. I got yelled at yesterday because I talked about it on the air, and I'm not supposed to say anything yet. But that's the thing. You hire a comic, they're going to have big mouths. And also, if you're a comic, you're so excited that you finally got a part that's good, and even though it's tiny, it's a serious, fun thing to do, you're going to brag and be all happy. So, yeah, I shut my mouth for another couple of weeks until it's announced, quote unquote. Whatever.
So have you done dramatic acting in the past?
No, just in class. So let's see if I could cry like the rape victim I had to cry like during my Law and Order scene in acting class.
So you had to audition for this to show them that you could actually do it.
Yeah, I auditioned for 3 parts, and I got one of them. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty funny that it's not a funny part. One of the parts was really funny, and I figured that was the one I would get, but I got the one that's a little bit more supported and serious and nice. And I go, all right, well, you know, come on, this guy has created the best TV show that was ever on TV, this David Chase, so he sees things that people don't see, so it's kind of cool.
Well, Rickles was a classically trained actor as well, and pretty serious actor.
Yeah, I mean, he was good. I mean, hey, in Casino, he was terrific, and he wasn't playing him.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't think this is something that, suddenly when I'm 60, I'm going to be this Olympia Dukakis or some shit. But, you know, it's fun to try and to have a good time with it.
I think in showbiz, so much of it is a young person's game, and it's nice that in comedy, as you have said, it takes years to get really good, so you know your craft, and then you get an example like Joan Rivers, who's still going strong, almost 80. I don't know how old she is.
Right.
So, but do you ever run up against that where you're not 25, and so?
Well, I mean, I'm always smart enough to have management that goes after things in my range. You know, I even was asked, you know, Whitney Cummings has a pilot coming out, and my manager goes, would you want to go in and read for the part of her mom? And I'm too young to play that. But I'm like, dude, put on some heavy makeup and I'll pretend I'm Sophia from the Golden Girls. I don't give a shit. So I, know my range, and I never tried to play younger. I never lied about my age, because you can't. You forget what lie you told. So it's better to just tell the truth, you know? I'll get what I'm supposed to get. I always say that. For instance, Everybody Loves Raymond, Doris Roberts got what she was supposed to get. She was supposed to get that fame when she was older. So, you know, I never experienced, thank God, any ageist bullshit. You know, because, like you said, comedy at any age still works.
So why chase the acting dream when you have a great career in stand-up? Is it for the more money? Is it for fame, more fame?
No, I think it's a challenge because you get really bored. You get just where you go, well, I played Radio City Music Hall. I played the Beacon Theater twice, sold out both times. I played the Carnegie Hall, got nominated for a Grammy. Like, what else am I going to do in comedy? Like, what's left? Madison Square Garden, maybe. But, you know, it's not like it's not fun anymore, but do you just want to have fun? Or do you sometimes want a little challenge where you go, I stretched a little, and even if I sucked at it, it's okay, because at least I tried. So I think comics tend to get bored and go, what's new? What's more challenging now?
And you've played the River Rock, so yeah, you're right.
Yeah, there you go. Once you can cross that off your list, you might as well retire.
What was it like hosting the Adult Video Awards?
It didn't suck, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I thought it was going to be a bunch of rowdy douchebags yelling and drunk and just misbehaving. The audience was like the most well-behaved audience I've ever seen. They didn't love being made fun of, so I didn't do it too much. I made fun of the porn industry because I knew they take themselves very seriously. Like, this is their Oscars. So I really liked it. Like, it was fun to host. It was fun to, after somebody's speech, to go up and kind of jab at them a little bit, but not too mean-spirited. So, yeah, I liked it a lot.
Do you ever foresee moving away from the racial material of your stand-up?
No, because, races are funny. It's race. You remember you didn't used to be able to talk about sex. Now you're not supposed to talk about race. But it's just my mind goes there a lot. I have a dirty mind, but I also have like a racially sensitive mind. So I can't imagine ever kind of not looking at somebody in the audience and calling them a name. That just wouldn't be me. But I don't do it in real life, so I don't get beat up or anything.
Yeah, when Rickles comes here, he will still, make the Mexican jokes, even though, I don't think we really have any Mexicans to speak of. Will you not do certain material if there are no representatives in the crowd, because then it's like picking on them or something? I don't know.
No, I do it anyway because, I ad-lib a lot. So if somebody kind of looks tan, I'll pretend they're Latino or whatever. But if they're not there, I go any Hispanics here, and if they don't, nobody claps. There's really no reason to make the joke, but it's not out of some moral obligation to not make fun of anybody behind their back, or else I wouldn't talk about the Kardashians or, Angelina Jolie, because you have to make fun of them and shit on them.
Right, so you got the celebrity angle, too.
Yeah, just a little bit, because I'm just frustrated by people who are famous for no reason at all. I just don't get it. Like, I don't get why the housewives are famous, the Real Housewives. Even though I watch them, I'm, like, appalled that these chicks are, like, making a lot of dough and they have no talent. So I have to make fun of them.
Yeah,
the only people I'm pissed off at.
I think you answered your question why they're famous. It's because you watch them, and other people watch them.
No, I can't help it. It's like I'm feeding the thing I hate the most in life.
It helps you develop your material.
Yeah.
Well, Lisa, I look forward to seeing you here. Thank you for calling.
Well, thank you, and thanks for not changing your name to Guy, because that would be just gay.
Yeah, Guy is gay. You're right. Okay. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, buddy.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye.
Well, you just heard Lisa Lampanelli interviewed by Mr. Guy McPherson. You're listening to What's So Funny on CFRO 102.7 Cable FM. Up next, another interview. This time, Mr. Chris Porter.
Porter, nice to meet you. This is the second time I've seen you now, actually.
Oh, thanks, man.
You were here at the Comedy Fest.
Yeah, the World Festival of Comedy or whatever.
the global.
The global, I knew it was something that encompassed the entire Earth.
I take some time. I do some research for my guests.
Oh,
and,
good.
Yeah, and I was looking you up, and I came across your gay porn site.
Oh, yes. I'm a huge gay porn star. I look a lot different than when I do my comedy, but that should be... No, there is a gay porn star named Chris Porter, and he's, just another hilarious thing about being me, I guess, is having to deal with that shit. So.
But, and so I saw you here Thursday night at the Comedy Mix. Nice show. Great show. Tonight I saw a full house. Everybody was quiet. A little change from Thursday.
The Thursday show was very drunk and talkative. It was more of a NASCAR race than a comedy show. But, we struggled through it. And, but they've been getting better and better. So.
Now, you were a little different. I met you after the show briefly. You're quite different off stage from the character you are on stage, which is a little aggressive, a little violent, or at least you have thoughts towards violence.
I'd be miserable if I lived the way that my stage persona is definitely an extension of me, but it's, things that I would think but never say to people, I guess. I mean, sometimes I would, but you can't be that angry all the time. And, hopefully I won't be this angry all the time in my act. It's just where I am right now.
But it's a fine line, isn't it? Do you turn off crowds sometimes?
No, not really. I mean, because I think they see that it's, they see through it all. It's just words. Really. I mean, it's a comedy club. It's not like I have a It's not like I have a PowerPoint presentation. And again, that's things that I wouldn't. If I said those things in a natural environment, then it would be totally. I'll back up everything I say. And I'm by no means am I vulgar. I'm just maybe saying things that aren't politically correct.
Yeah, and you do have an out for it all. Like you say, I'm not saying all women are talkative. This one that I went out.
Yeah, because everybody's different. You can't.
Yeah.
I mean, you can stereotype if you want to, but it's not always going to be true. And And you definitely can't stereotype for sex. You can't. I mean, nobody. I mean, when it comes to.
Well, a lot of comics do, but.
Well, absolutely, but I like there to be honesty in my act, and I like there to be truthfulness, and you can't say that and say all people are this way. That's just not the way it is. You can't say that all black people are a certain way. You can't say that all Mexican people are a certain way, because they're not.
Right.
It's just like you can't say all Canadians are beer drinking, bowling, SCTV watching dudes. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in Arkansas that believe just that. It's just but you can't learn. You can't believe that. I think you have a responsibility as a performer not to keep that going.
Or that Vancouver every day's November.
It is fucking November every day here. I mean, and that's the other
That's
thing.
right. It's just before Christmas every day.
It seems like it. It's 42 degrees. The sun won't come out. It's kind of cold, but it's not.
Is that what it was like your first time here, too?
Yeah, it was pretty much. I mean, we had one day that broke where it was nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think out of the 6 days I've ever been in Vancouver, I've seen the sun twice.
So these were your 2 times in the city? Have you been here before?
Yeah, no, I've only been here I was here for the festival and then here for this. Otherwise, I don't travel anywhere unless I'm working, just because of the nature of the beast. When I'm not working, the last thing I want to do is get on an airplane.
And it's good to be working.
Oh, absolutely. There was a time where, especially after Last Comic, where you kind of take it all for granted and you're just like, you get tired of it. You get tired of working every week and you get tired of traveling all the time. But now, and then that went away. And so now I definitely have a much higher respect. Now that it's come back around and I'm working a lot, I have a much higher respect for it. Excuse me, I don't complain about it. I just take it as it comes. And, granted, I do turn down gigs every once in a while, but I'm very thankful for the gigs that I get. I'm not a huge name by any stretch. I'm not a Bill Burr. I'm not fucking anybody who draws. I can't even think. But I'm not a household name. I was for a summer.
What year were you on Last Comic?
06.
06. You finished third?
I did.
Who won that year?
Josh Blue.
Josh Blue, and then second?
Ty Barnett.
Oh, Seattle guy. Or he's all around.
Yeah, he's from Seattle. He's there quite a bit.
Well, so, I mean, and overall, it's got to be a positive experience, right?
Oh, Last Comic, yeah, I loved every minute of it. I don't regret doing it. Yeah. I don't think it's something I would do again. I mean,
some comics do it a few times. Right?
Well, not ones that make it into the house, don't.
Oh, yeah.
Normally. I mean, a lot of the kids that make it to the semifinals do. They just keep trying. But, a lot of times the NBC calls them and says, come out again. We think you can make it this year. And then
we'll put you through.
Well, they don't say we'll put you through. They just say we really like, because they don't know who's going to show up. They can't promise anybody anything. Now, granted, the show is kind of they do select the contestants and then America votes from there. So it is cast in that, but they don't know who's going to walk through that line. There's always that wild card of some unknown comic, so they can't promise it. I know Nikki Glaser was a perfect example. She had done it like 3 or 4 years. She said, I'm not going to do it this year. And NBC called her and said, we want you back. And she really thought she had it in the bag. And she didn't get it. And it wasn't her fault. She had great shows. It's a matter of their slots to fill.
Right.
And they are casting a show. And at the end of the day, you do fit a profile. You're the hot, she was the good looking, funny, darker, funny chick. And they found there was another girl that also fit that bill, and she lost the coin toss, and it sucks. But you can't get down about that. It's just the nature of the beast.
If the audience does vote, though, isn't it possible that they would have 2 hot, funny chicks on instead of having one leave?
Well, yeah, if the audiences were able to vote on the semifinals, then absolutely that would be the case. But that's not how it is. Yeah. Even the judges you see on the show only account for 33% of the vote or something. It's normally the producers have a say and then the networks have a say.
Sure.
It is show business. There is a business involved. Now, granted, the show's not rigged by any stretch. I mean, the voting is honest. There's laws. I mean, we had to go through certain, when we drew numbers, it had to be videotaped and there had to be a member of the certain board there that could validate the fact.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there's laws that encompass these game shows. So the thought that it's rigged is a half-truth in the fact that they can only put in a sample population of 12 people and then it's up to America after that.
So you weren't the hot chick. What was your profile?
I don't know what that means.
Well, you were saying that, it is cast.
Oh,
right?
yeah. So, well, I was just the goofy. I was probably just like, every year they have the troublemaker, then they have like a couple young stars. But I think I was just like the goofy guy that had a decent act. Like I've actually had jokes and stuff. As everyone on that season pretty much was. That was. I mean, I'm not saying just because I was on it, but as far as those seasons go, that was the season that had some pretty heavy hitters on it. I mean, Gabriel Iglesias was on there, Josh, Roz, Bill Dwyer was on there. Like a lot of people that already had television credits and had been doing this for quite. Josh had been on Carlos Mencia's show for 2 years, so. I was going up against people who had a lot more experience than I did.
How much did you have at that point?
I was a feature act. I was driving around America middling for Tommy Davidson and whoever,
And so after Last Comic Standing, did that bump you up and you had to headline right after that?
Well, yeah, and I was headlining at the time. It's just that, especially in the States, you have to have a television credit. You can't just, most of the comedy clubs in the States, it's not about, people don't go there to come to the comedy club. They go there to see a specific person. And so if you don't have, if you have no way for America to have heard of you, it's hard for comedy clubs to put faith in you to headline.
And now I guess you've proven yourself. You're out there and you're killing it.
Even now you have to stay relevant. You can't, Pauly Shore is one of those few dudes that hasn't done shit in a fucking decade, but can still pack rooms. And it's just an anomaly and you can't explain it, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Or Screech from...
Well, Screech, that was a fad. That was something that lasted a few years and he couldn't handle it. And, with Pauly, there's just something about it where he can pull it off. But, America's quick to forget, and I don't know about Canada, but society. I'll just say people are quick to forget. I mean, once you're on TV, and really in the grand scheme of things, 3 months on television is nothing. People are on there for years before they're finally recognized. And there was definitely a time where I would walk down Sunset Boulevard and people would yell out Willy Wonka out of their cars. And that was amazing. That lasted a few weeks. And, now it's every once in a while someone will be like, hey, you're that one guy. Most of the time people think they went to high school with me. And then,
right.
And then they're like, no, that's not it. Did we work together? And then after about 5 minutes, you're just like, fine, I'm on. I'm not one of those guys. It's like, I'm on TV. Everyone has the same fucking questions for stand-up comics. If they know about it, they're like, how'd you start? Tell me a joke, all that stuff. So most of the time when I meet strangers, they're like, what do you do? I work at the mall. Or so, I mean, I got trapped once. I was at a bar in Kansas City hanging out with my buddy was bartending, and a guy just, for no reason, he didn't even know who I was or anything. He just wanted to talk to me. He's like, what do you do? And I was like, I'm in like biomedical prosthetics and all that stuff. And I think what had happened was I just watched like a History Channel documentary, and so it was all fresh in my mind, and I just started reeling all this shit off.
It's good for your improv chops.
And it just so happened this guy was really into that stuff, and I always wanted to be one of those, and I was just like, fuck off. So now I just tell people I work at a sunglass hut in the mall.
Yeah, and this is why you're thankful, right, of working now, because you never know. I mean, it requires a bit of a head on your shoulders to realize that it could go at any time.
Well, and a lot of that has to do with your own productivity. I mean, a lot of comics think they can ride an hour and they just ride that for the rest of their lives. And the fact is, you can't. You have to keep producing. You have to keep writing new jokes. I take a very musical approach to it in the fact that it's like, all right, I put out one album. Now I got to write the next one and put out that one. And then as soon as that album's done, you have to start over again. And it's not one of those things where you can relax. And that's kind of one of the things I like about living in Los Angeles is I do have that there's that competitiveness to it with all the, there's a million comics there. Not literally, but probably close. And it's just like, if you want to stay relevant in that town, you have to keep writing jokes. You have to keep producing. And that's what a lot of it is if you can stay as relevant as and you also are giving your audience a product to buy. When you write another hour, that's another hour you can put on television, and that's another DVD you can sell. And, your fans are waiting for your next product. They are waiting for you to do the next thing. And if you're sitting there telling the same 45 minutes for 6 years, your fans are going to get just as bored as you are.
Yeah, and you're selling a DVD here in Vancouver. What's the name of it?
Screaming from the Cosmos.
DVD/CD.
Yes.
And as you tell the crowd that it is different material than what they heard tonight.
Well, yeah, the DVD that the DVD that's my last album. So now I'm working on the next one. And so as close as I feel that I feel like I'm so far away from recording it, or being ready to record it. But it's, so I am at a point now where I can offer an audience, a completely different show for the most part than what they saw on stage.
Is Louis C.K. kind of a role model for comics these days? I mean, he's this prototype of getting rid of his hour every single year and writing a new one from scratch.
Well, that's I mean, we'd all love to do that, but not everyone has the balls that Louis C.K. does. He has that luxury also because he has a name and he is available he can really rebuild, and he can walk into a club and eat it for 15 minutes while he trudges through a bunch of jokes. He has that luxury because he's Louis C.K. I don't. So now granted, as soon as the album's out, I start writing again. Or not that I'm always writing, but it's when it's like intense, and there's definitely going to be big chunks of new stuff, and it's not going to be as funny, but I am going to pepper it in for the audience's sake. I am going to pepper in some old jokes that they want to hear.
Sure.
Because they did pay to get in. But, Louis C.K. has the luxury of doing theaters and not clubs. And so he can hang out in New York, get stage time whenever he wants, and really work shit out. And also, for doing it for as long as he has, it's easier to work shit out in your head. And you can probably get it, it's easier to write it.
What is your writing process? Do you work it out on stage, or do you pen and paper?
Both. I mean, it just seems to come in waves. Sometimes you have to jumpstart it. You have to sit down and just write it and tell yourself that it's time. Like I'm almost at that point now. And then when it comes, usually comes in about 15-minute chunks for me. Like I'll write one 5-minute piece, and then that'll spark another one, and then maybe another one, and then sometimes it keeps going. Sometimes it fizzles out. It's just, and it also depends on what I'm doing in life. If I'm leading a very active life and I have a girlfriend, obviously material is easier to come by in that fashion. But on the other hand, if I'm playing Xbox all the time and not going out, I'm traveling a lot, it's harder to write that way because you're not experiencing a lot of life, and no one wants to hear jokes about Call of Duty or whatever. Or there's only all the airline jokes have been done. So at some point you have to start taking a focused look at society and going, all right, what's wrong and what can I talk about?
And I like what you talk about. I mean, your message, common courtesy, saying thank you, please and thank you, cell phones.
Personal responsibility.
Guys with tattoo sleeves of tattoos that, hey,
we do have an opportunity to say something of that. Yeah. I mean, granted, I'm a big fan of Carlin, but there were many years where the point preceded the joke. Or superseded the joke, and it wasn't as funny. It just seemed like he was on his soapbox, and that's what I loved about his last hour, where it was all about the joke, and there were points made, but it was the joke came first, and that's what it's always been about with me. It's like, I found it very easy. I don't mean to sound pompous here, but I found it very easy to make people laugh at when I started my career. I was like, oh, this is easy, but now we have an opportunity to change people's minds up there. And I'm not saying that should be our goal, but if you're writing a joke and there's a chance you have an opportunity to make a point of some sort, and then I think you should take that opportunity.
Yeah, sometimes if you're too close or feel too strongly about something, it's hard to make it funny.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, there's that. I mean, but that's what's cool about talking about social things is like no one's really not attached to elevator etiquette and that kind of thing. But they get it. They understand. They know what rudeness is. Everybody knows what being rude is. Everyone knows when. That's why rude people usually don't look you in the eye. They know what they're doing. They're just being dicks. And, you're not going to see me. I don't talk about too deep about my personal life up there. I make generalizations stemming from my personal life. But at the end of the day, the joke is about us as a whole. I don't make a lot of jokes. I mean, granted, I do call a girl stupid. But, I mean, that girl's really an amalgamation of a couple of chicks. In the same fashion, I've seen an interview with Chris Robinson talking about She Talks to Angels. And he was like, that wasn't about one girl. That was about several girls. And I wrote a song about. And the idea of a couple of, and that's what my jokes, my dating jokes aren't about one girl. I've been out with a couple of really dumb chicks. And it's just like, you kind of get it. But you can't. The audience doesn't give a shit that there's 3 or 4. You just have to make it about, because it's not no one's incredibly unique, especially when it comes to social behavior. So it's very easy to turn it on society.
Is there a reason why you don't talk about your personal life, or it just doesn't come naturally?
It doesn't come. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I probably would if it came up. I just not in this particular writing cycle. I just haven't had much of one. First off,
yeah, you're not hiding anything.
I'm not hiding anything. No, and I'm starting to. Some of the new ideas I have are weird, and I'm working on it. But again, it's like I'd rather talk about us than me. I mean, it starts with me, but again, like I said, I always try to turn around and make it about us as a whole. It seems like our cell phones are both making us a community and also destroying a community at the same time. Like we do know what everyone's doing all the time, but we aren't looking up a lot from our phone. We're not seeing what's going around in the 5 feet radius around us. We're only seeing what's going on in the fucking information superhighway.
Yeah, connecting electronically, but not really connecting.
Absolutely. I mean, it's getting to a point where a lot of people are even meeting via websites, dating sites, and it's becoming kind of the natural norm. I mean, like good-looking, attractive, normal people are doing internet dating, when before it was just the freaks and the fucking Dungeons and Dragons people. I've met many couples on the road just like, oh, how'd you guys meet? And they kind of hold their head down. They're like, Match.com. And it's like, that's what it's come to. We don't even... But also, look where a lot of people try to meet. It's fucking dance clubs and all that shit. So really, I understand why they're doing it, but it's just, that's the age we've come to, where you can almost get a date via your app.
There's kind of talk in comedy. Maybe it's more in the alt crowd, but there's this belief that you have to we have to know something about a Comic-Con stage.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what you're talking about. I don't buy that, but do you have any opinions on that? Like, they talk about personal, like we don't really know them, but who cares?
You definitely have to connect with them. They need to know you in some fashion. You can't just be some guy. They do have to be invested in you. Mm-hmm. So they do have to get to know you in some fashion, but not in I mean, the way you tell your jokes, and they'll get to know you. They'll find your point of view. It's not something where you have to go up there and be like, my name's Steve. When I was 15, I had bad acne. I got made fun of for it. And sometimes when I pee, it hurts. Now, here's my jokes.
Yeah.
Like, that's stupid. You just go up there and do your act, man. Again, it goes back to music. You get to know your favorite bands, not because up there they're giving you their goddamn biography. It's just because they write music. Mm-hmm. And you learn who they are through them. Through the music. Well, you can learn who I am through my jokes. And
the way your mind works.
Absolutely. They'll see it.
Where do you stand on the great divide, alt versus club comics? Because you're in LA and you got Largo and the comedy death ray type.
Well,
shows.
yeah, but a good alt comic will work in clubs. I mean, that whole... A lot of alt comics are just shitty comics who can't come to terms with it. And they can go into these hipster rooms and just, their hipster rooms are no better than any of the other rooms. The key phrases are just a little different. And as long as you touch the certain things, they're going to like you. They take a different approach. But, Doug Benson, Todd Glass, all those, Jimmy Dore, all those cats, Zach Galifianakis, all those cats from UCB, the ones that can play clubs.
Exactly.
And good comics can play alt rooms. You can't make money in alt rooms. You can make legends, but that doesn't pay shit.
Yeah, and Patton Oswalt, of course, he's now playing theaters.
Well, yeah, but he did that because he fucking voiced a rat in a Pixar movie. What's hipster about that? It's like, I love Patton. Yeah. I think he's a wonderful fucking comic. But at the end of there's nothing hipster about Ratatouille. Yeah. But the hipsters will look past that. It's because they're there as fucking, succumbing to the band as anybody else is. They may sit there in their scarves and their tight pants and their cigarettes and tell you how the club scene's fucked. And you know what? A lot of the comedy clubs are fucked up. And there is a shit scene, especially in the Midwest of America, where they're putting in these fucking mall clubs and they're terrible, and then they wonder why there's no goddamn walk-up business. Like, there is a shit scene, but the hipster scene's no better. It's just more judgmental.
You're from the Midwest. Is Kansas City in the Midwest?
Yeah, it's the middle city. We're called the heart of America.
Is there much of a comedy scene there?
There was, and there still is. Kansas City has the problem of having a comedy club that's owned by felons, and then another comedy club that's owned by a large chain of comedy clubs. So there's no real. There used to be a fucking oasis of where we could go and be comics, and there was a really good constructive scene, and that's not really happened. You know, I was fortunate enough to benefit from it, but a lot of the guys that were, you know, fertilizing that scene left.
To L.A., New York.
To L.A. or New York, or just left the scene. They went on the road and didn't really want to hang out with these. You know, the problem with a lot of open micers is they think they're better than they are, and they think that killing every open mic is the way to become famous, and it's not. You know, eventually, you know, they don't want to put any work in, and then wonder why they're still doing open mics and waitering at a pizza joint during the day.
So the way to success is putting the work in. But if you're killing at the open mics, you're saying that they only have 7 minutes and they're not progressing from that?
Absolutely. You can go with the same 7 minutes. Now, of course, in LA, where you have 7 minutes, you can actually get away with some shit. But if you want to be a real comic, you have to put an act together. Like, it's part of it. It's just like, again, back to music. You can't just write a song. Like, no, we want a fucking album. Or at least an LP or an EP.
Although with the YouTube culture.
Yeah, but look what the YouTube culture's wrought. I mean, people like fucking Angela Johnson who had a great 7-minute YouTube video but can't fill a goddamn hour without having a goddamn dance routine in the middle of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, YouTube is, for everything that it's doing right for comedy, it's doing a million things wrong. It's putting these idiots who had a cool video idea, and comedy clubs they're still clubs. They just want asses in the seats, and if they think they can fill asses in the seats with some douchebag from the internet, they're going to do it. The problem is they're just thieves in the night. They come in, they take all the door money, and the audience is left with a shit show that may or may not include that little YouTube video that they loved him so much from. And then the audience, they don't think that this guy, not only do they think that guy sucks, but now they think that comedy club sucks because they brought him.
Yeah.
And so now when you bring someone like me or Ian Bagg or Ryan Stab that are great comics that may not be the best well-known, no one's coming into the comedy club just for the comedy club, which is how it used to be in the day. You used to be able to walk into the fucking whatever. No, that's why people show up to the Comedy Cellar and the fucking Improv in Hollywood. It's because they have the great comics every night. And same with the Comedy Store. Mm-hmm. But when, you know, you're doing the fucking Improv in God knows where, and they're booking, you know, Johnny YouTube, and he's not funny, it's, you know, no one's going to come back. You know, not 70% of those people are going to come back.
Can't sustain itself.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I really like about the comedy mix here, too, is that they're bringing in guys, as you say, not known to the masses, but solid comics. But
that's also why the shows are sold out every night. It's because they know they're going to get a good show. Yeah. And that's the problem with a lot of comedy clubs. Again, especially, I don't know much about the Canadian comedy, but especially in the States, it's who can we put in that's going to make us the most money once. And they're not looking to build an audience. They're not looking to build people. You know, even the smaller comedy clubs like Appleton, Wisconsin, they have a great following of people granted it's a smaller market, so it might be a little bit easier. But also, Cliff Dietrich, the owner, brings in nothing but the talent that he likes and thinks is clever and funny and productive and not hacky. And those comedy clubs survive throughout. Because even in hard times, comedy's needed. You know, entertainment's known to thrive throughout most recessions and depressions. But the people are going to be a lot more cautious on who they spend it on. And they're not just going to come to the comedy club to see whoever. They're going to come to see a specific person.
So if a club has a reputation
to having great comics, then you're going to have that. But if you're just the fly-by-night improvs who book whoever, you know, that's going to be a lot harder ticket to sell.
You talked about learning what a lot of the young types or the YouTube types don't understand about putting an act together. How did you learn all this? Did somebody take you by the hand?
Other comics?
Yeah.
No, you just watch other. I mean, and you know, in open mics, there were local guys that were out there working, and it's not hard. It's not fucking hard. You watch the shows. You're like, oh, okay, well, that guy's getting paid, and he put 30 minutes together. I mean, it's not fucking rocket science. But what you don't understand at first is that just because you do 30 minutes doesn't mean you're ready to feature. And just because you can fill the time doesn't make it cool. Mm-hmm. You know, you got to be able to sustain an audience's attention for the entire time. You can't just be able to stand up there for 30 minutes.
And can you know that yourself objectively?
No, well, yeah, you can if you're an adult, but a lot of comics are psychotic. They're not right in the head, and you're also ambitious. And a lot of comics, even to this day, I know guys that they'll come off a mediocre set and they'll be like, "I fucking killed," and you're just like, "Where's your meter?" Because it's broken.
One thing I really like, you mentioned Willy Wonka there. Now, when I saw you Thursday, you don't mention Willy Wonka, but you do it tangentially. It's a nice little way of acknowledging, hey, I know I look like this, without the, hey, I'm a combination of this guy and this guy, right? I mean, you say, we're going to the chocolate factory.
Yeah, I don't even like doing that joke, to be honest with you, but it's it's something you got to deal with. I look like Willy Wonka. I can't run away from that. But I didn't do it Thursday just because I forgot. Like I see. I had flown in. I was sober. It wasn't a normal day for me.
When you were here in Vancouver in October, whenever that was, you did Mark Maron's podcast, the live one. Yeah. I don't remember a lot of it. I remember something about you being arrested for a hat. Is that right?
Oh yeah. I did. No, I got arrested, and my biggest concern while being cuffed was where my hat was.
Okay, yeah. But I do also remember Mark visibly squirming when you were talking the race issue. Because
I kept saying the N-word over and over again.
Is there any fallout from that?
No, Dean Edwards was in the room, and he was the only black dude in the room, and I wasn't being racist. I was using the term in a third person, and
you were quoting.
I was quoting other. Now, should I have said it as many times as I did? That's probably up for argument, and there'd be good points on either side. But Dean wasn't offended. I went out to lunch with Dean the next day. He totally got it. It's a lot of it has to do with intent. I wasn't being I wasn't trying to be a black dude. I was just I was speaking in third person about my racist relatives. And I didn't even consider it. Words mean very little to me just because we're in an industry. We deal in words. So it's like I don't really even think about it. And so when I was saying it, I was just saying it. And then but I did feel the tension in the room after about the sixth time. And that's when I realized that I was in a room full of white people. And so, yeah.
Right, and that makes it worse.
That does make it, especially when there's one black guy in the corner. But, Dean came on and it ended up making a great discussion point.
Yeah, it did. I didn't know, but I'm going to listen soon, that you have a podcast yourself.
Yeah, Chris Porter's General Store. I just started it. It's called Chris Porter's General Store. And I was just approached by a gentleman who has his own podcast and is creating a network of podcasts. And, he just approached me, and I thought it was a good outlet to maybe talk about things that I wouldn't talk about on stage, like politics and shit like that.
And what's the format?
It's like a talk thing. It's me and usually another comic, and it usually starts with me doing road stories and just like this week I'll talk about being in Vancouver, and then anything weird that might have happened or anything like that. And then it's usually we talk about a news story and then take a bigger idea, the bigger issue. Like, we talked about a couple weeks ago, there was a story about suburban cops stopped Girl Scouts from selling cookies because they didn't have the right permit. And so we talked about suburban cops just being bored and what the problem is with overfunding police departments and shit.
So it's serious as well as funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's all comics, so there's going to be funny involved. But yeah, there's no sketches or anything. But the beginning's much funnier than the end, I guess.
You're enjoying doing it.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. I have to prepare, it requires me to do, watch the news and come up with a grander concept. It was easy, the first couple episodes were really easy. It was shit I'd always wanted to talk about, but it's getting more difficult as time goes on.
Well, it might help you come up with ideas for your act too.
Well, yeah, it is a writing that's really why I did it. It was just an opportunity to be forced to write and get back into that.
Last question, you do sell your DVDs after the shows. Is that something you enjoy, or is it just the nature of the beast?
It's just the nature. I would much rather just go sitting back and have a beer and be alone, but you got to make money.
Once again, the name of that CD?
Oh, Screaming from the Cosmos, available on iTunes and Amazon.com.
And Chris Porter's General Store, the podcast, I'm going to...
Also available on iTunes. All right, get some.
All right, Chris, thanks a lot.
Thanks, brother. It was a pleasure.
Well, that's the show. Two great interviews. Chris Porter there and Lisa Lampanelli before that. You've been listening to What's So Funny every Sunday evening here on CFRO 102.7 cable FM. And on your computers there, you can listen to it as well. Podcast, check them out. Next week on the show, April 3rd, that'll be Steve Bays. Yes, the rock star, talking about comedy. He's a big comedy fan. So tune in next time for that, and we'll see you then.